George Sawtooth. I'm just out here at the neglected Riverside Cemetery, Denver, and part of it goes into Commerce City. Over here there's a power plant right here. Over here is Suncourt Refinery. That refinery was built in 1938. Way over there is the Purina plant, and that dates way back to the 1940s, I believe. No, it is not the Purina plant is right there. Actually, I'm not sure what that is over there, but there's the Purina plant. That dates back to the 1940s. There's the Denver skyline right there. Over on this part of just west of here are railroad tracks, so it's very industrial over here. If you see, can you see Mount Evans? Mount Evans is now Mount Blue Sky. It's named after John Evans. He was the territorial governor during the Sand Creek Massacre, and so that was kind of tainted his name, so they changed the name to just last year to Mount Blue Sky. But this is the old Riverside Cemetery, 1876. Notable burials here are Clara Brown, African-American lady. She moved from Kentucky back east. She moved to the Auraria campus area. Auraria was actually kind of a small town, and then Denver kind of took over that area. She moved up to Central City. She died in 1885. That lady had 16 lots in Denver, 7 houses in Central City, owned property mines. So she was kind of rich when she died. I think over $10,000 of liquid money at the time she died. Richard Sopris, mayor of Denver, he's here. Augusta Tabor from the Tabor Opera House, she's here. John Rout, he was the last territorial governor of Colorado. Rout National Forest is named after him. Richard Sopris was mayor of Denver, he's here. And Mount Sopris in the Maroon Bells Wilderness is named after Mr. Sopris. Jacob Schuler is here. I'm not going to spend any time trying to find graves today. I've been here several times, and I know where all the graves are, but I've kind of forgotten where they all are. I just wanted to give a short overview of this cemetery. Barney Ford. Another one of my videos is O.T. Jackson. He created the town of Deerfield, which is now a ghost town. He probably knew Barney Ford. Barney Ford was an African-American man. 1870s, is one of the wealthiest men in Colorado. He owned 2 hotels. Inter-Ocean Hotel. One was in on Blake Street. The other one was up in Cheyenne. Unfortunately, during the Great Panic of 1873, he lost a lot of his money, and he moved to San Francisco for a little while, and then came back to Colorado and kind of regained most of his money back. He owned a hotel here called Ford's Hotel. He was actually called the Black Baron of Colorado, owned restaurants and barbershops. So he's a great entrepreneurial man. I think he died in 1902, but I'm sure he knew O.T. Jackson. If you guys want to see my other video about that. But this is the old Riverside Cemetery, established 1876. The original Denver Cemetery was Cheeseman Park, where Cheeseman Park is right now. A lot of the people and the congressmen didn't like the way it was looking, and they didn't want a cemetery in near the Denver, so they wanted a park. So they decided that they wanted to move 5,000 graves. Mayor Spear was the mayor. They called it the City Beautiful movement. Walter Cheeseman donated $100,000. Of course, they changed the name to Cheeseman Park, but that used to be the old Denver Cemetery. There still are finding bodies buried out there. Does it make sense to move a cemetery? Doesn't make any sense to me. That's why politicians You know what my word for a politician? Just crooks. That's what they are. Criminals. And they don't represent the people, in my opinion. They only represent the few elite that are willing to that have the money and are willing to give them money to do whatever they want. That's what a politician is. He's just a high-grade criminal. Ed McGowan was the manager of moving those bodies. They didn't move a lot of the bodies, and a lot of the bodies are still there. They're still digging those bodies up. The Denver Botanic Gardens, whenever they add new additions and start digging, they find more bodies. Denver Botanic Garden was dedicated in 1966. But back to Riverside Cemetery here. It was modeled after Mount Auburn Cemetery of Boston, Auburn. And so yeah, it was they said it was a very beautiful cemetery before it got so industrialized around here after World War I and in the 1940s, 50s. And Riverside Cemetery lost its water rights in the 70s. I don't know how a cemetery can lose its water rights, but it used to have such beautiful large trees here. And of course they are all gone. They probably succumbed to age, but I'm sure a lot of them would still be here if you could actually water here. But you can't water. See, there's no grass or anything. It's just weeds and native grass. But there was a historian, if I can get his, the 1901 historian Jerome Smiley described, this was 1901, a most beautiful city of the dead, adorned with shrubbery, lawns, costly monuments, so that one feels in the midst of it all that rivers of human love, devotion flow up and down all its walks and drives. So that's how he described it in 1901. So it must have been very beautiful. But it has fallen into neglect. The Fairmount Cemetery organization, they own Riverside, so they really don't help out much. And they tried to deed it over to the city of Denver. City of Denver didn't want it. They're too busy legalizing illicit drugs and things like that, and more criminal politicians. They just want a beautiful cemetery to be forgotten, and unfortunately I believe it was going to be 160 acres. It's reduced down to 77 acres. But 1876, I'll go for a walk here. Some of the memorials are very large. Like this guy here. Wonderly, that's an interesting name. Talbert and Coral, 1943, 1941 they died. A lot of Asian Americans are buried here. A lot of Mexican Americans are buried here. A lot of African Americans are buried here. But it's just a neglected cemetery, and it's very sad to see how neglected it is. South Platte River is just right there. It's unbelievable how they can't use any of the South Platte River to water this cemetery. Just a sad testament to a poorly run city of Denver, and kind of a poorly run state of Colorado. I hate to say that about Colorado, but when they do things like this, neglect a cemetery, they are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. If Denver doesn't shape up a little bit, they are going by the way of Detroit, because 30 years ago Denver was kind of a beautiful city, but anymore you drive around Denver, you see a lot of abandoned buildings, and they are being trashed out by people big time. Katrina Wolf Murat, 1824-1910. There's Mr. Evans over there. I'm going to create a part 2 of this video, and so I kind of want to warm my hands, so get back in my car and get a little bit warm. It's a very cold day, but part 2 coming up. This is George Sawtooth, Riverside Cemetery, Denver, Colorado, and actually Commerce City, Colorado as well. All right, take care.